Yes. Oh, okay. Hey, Vicki. There are 2 switches and both of them have to be on. Okay. Thank you, thank you. As somebody who's like also like a leader in my own right, I like totally disrespect, but that's why I like have them sometimes. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Oh, you want the ears like that? That is important. Hello. Hello. Hi. Please join us as we sing new lyrics to a familiar tune. This is We Are Gathered by Amanda Udis Kessler. Sorry, I didn't. I should have gone heads up to you too.
We are gathered in the spirit, our bodies We are gathered in our sorrow. We are gathered in our fear, in our pain and in our worry, in our anger and our tears. As we tend to one another with our gifts and with our care, our community is strengthened through the faith and hope we share. We are gathered in commitment to a planet that is whole. Works of justice, acts of kindness, bless the world and heal our souls. As our voices join together, may our song of peace resound. May we offer in abundance all the grace that we have found.
You love, family structure, just to name a few. We would love to welcome you in person after the service and answer any questions that you might have. And now it's time for the fun announcements. First of all, make sure your cell phones are turned off to make sure it doesn't disturb anyone during the service. Secondly, we are streaming and recording this service and electronically managing it via YouTube. And finally, if you want to know more about what's going on at UUFT, especially in the next couple weeks, it should be on the back of the bulletin that you got when you came in. You can also look at the bulletin boards in the gathering area outside of Scanlon Hall. And finally, find a lot of information on our website at uuft.org. I have one announcement first. With the Perfect Potluck Go Forth on the 4th weekend is going to be on the 4th Sunday. And so if we can start this clipboard around. And Erin Forstein, our Director of Religious Exploration, also has an announcement. Oh, yeah.
Good morning, everybody.
Our meeting and orientation for Our Whole Lives, grades 7 through 9, will be meeting next Sunday at 12:30. If you know of anybody that might be interested in being in this class, I have packets over on the RE table, and you can take one and give them to the person that needs one.
Thank you, Erin. And we'll have more announcements from the congregation. Oh, okay, go ahead.
It's that time of month. I need submissions for the newsletter. So if you have news, send it to me, Cynthia Maxwell. Also, we are working on the haunted house, and I'm working on a sign-up sheet. I did print one out, but realized that the print was really small. So making it bigger, filling it in as you, if you did play a role in the haunted house before and you want to just do the same thing, let me know and I'll sign you up early so that you don't compete with others, because I know everyone wants to do this.
Thanks, Cynthia. And now I invite Blair Hall up to light the chalice to the words of David Breeden on his message, A Theology of Welcome.
Why does this happen every single time?
That's not.
Oh, it's barely lit. It is lit, just barely. I couldn't see it.
I was going to say, it went out again.
The welcome we crave. Open hearts, arms outstretched. Let's embody radical welcome, unquestioning love. Let's be the welcome we crave. Deeply hearing voices and hearts. Let's be the welcome we crave. Enriching understanding. Let us embody the community that we crave.
Thank you, Blair. Now please welcome Erin Forstein, Director of Religious Exploration, with her story for all ages.
Good morning again. Children, come up, come up. I am so glad. Stella by Gleb Toropov. All right, are you ready? From the day she was born, Stella didn't. Oh, okay, we're good. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Stella. From the day she was born, Stella didn't fit in. She grew up in a square world surrounded by squares, so it was no wonder she stood out from the crowd. Oops. Do you see the star? I think she's going to be in every picture. Stella felt awkward wherever she went, on the street, on the bus, everywhere. She felt out of place at work, where all the squares did square jobs and went about their square business. It looks very square, doesn't it? They totally do, I know. She found it hard to understand square thoughts or square conversations, so it was really tough to make any friends. Every night, Stella sat alone in her square apartment, eating a square meal while watching her square TV. Only when she went to sleep, the world around her changed, because it is a square bed and square pillows. Yes, because every night, Stella saw shiny dreams. Ooh. But every morning her dreams would end, and all Stella could think was, why can't I be square just like everybody else? Have you ever thought that? That is right. Still, no matter what she did, where she went, or how hard she tried, Stella did not fit in. Until one day, she saw a happy circle bouncing around the corner. Stella had never met anyone else like him. How can you be so happy when you don't fit in? She asked the circle. I don't want to fit in. I love being different, the circle replied, smiling. I'll tell you a secret, he whispered. I was a square once. I think so. Maybe giving a high five. I was a square once before I found my bounce. Find your shine, and you'll be happy too. My shine? Thought Stella to herself. Because I'm not a square, I'm a star. And as soon as she realized this, Stella started to glow. Brighter and brighter she shone, shinier and shinier she became until all the squares stopped and stared. Stella lived in a square world. She didn't fit in, but she didn't mind because she was brilliant, unique, exceptional, amazing, one of a kind, extraordinary, a star, just like you. Yes. And now Vinny is going to lead us all out and carry the lantern. And we can sing.
Rest of your life, please come up to the microphone and introduce yourself and speak clearly into the microphone to tell us what you want to share.
Good morning. My name is Blair. I just wanted to share a joy of mine that I just got a second job as a manager at Arby's, and it pays me $1.50 more than I make at my other job. So, like, really happy about that.
Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry, Rob.
Yeah, I have a moment of gratitude. I got to spend part of Friday evening and part of Saturday with my son. He's been going through some strong ups and downs, and just really good to be with him. I encourage it. Thank you.
I'm Vicki George, and this is you. Many of you that are on the Facebook or email already know that, but if you're not, Reverend Shannon's mother died, and that's why she's not with us right now. She will be back in October.
All right, now our wonderful volunteers are going to take up the offering. Herrera may have explained it best when he said, "Diversity is about becoming complete as human beings, all of us. We learn from one another. If you are missing from that stage, we learn less. We all need to be on that stage." On July 16th on the Spectrum Part 1, we brought stories and information about autism spectrum differences, or ASD to our stage that have been a complete mystery to many like me, but we still need to learn more. In a moment, we'll add Starr's story and her experience to our stage. It is especially important for us to learn more about interacting with individuals on the spectrum, since we have several members of this congregation who identify as having some form of ASD. Elsewhere in your life, you probably work with high-functioning members who have ASD without even knowing it. So at this point, let's go ahead and welcome Starr to the stage with her story and lived experience of ASD.
Well, true to form, I arrived 3 minutes late, which, while it doesn't have much to do with ASD, it has to do with kind of the whole spectrum of neurodifferences that I work with. So hold on one moment. Maybe. There it is. All right. Some of my earliest memories are of being in trouble. I stopped napping at 18 months. These two things are related to each other, and I promise they're related to our topic this morning. One of those early memories is of preschool nap time. The lights are off, the piano lullabies are playing in the background, and my cot is as close as it can be without going over my teacher. Editor's note, Jake and I watched several episodes of The Price is Right recently, and I've now incorporated it into my personality. There are Tootsie Rolls all over the table in front of my teacher, and because I can't nap, but I have to do something, I have begun to plot how to steal one. Thus begins the next 14 years of school. Psychological testing has diagnosed me with ADHD, so the attempts at accommodations and medications and therapies start. Second editor's note, that there's also an editor's note on the editor's note that says, oh, I turned it into a tangent because I've got lots of feelings. There's no shame in medication. ADHD/autism are neurobiological conditions. Evidence supports autism as a disorder of the association cortex, both its neurons and their projections. Brain changes in autism are comprehensive throughout the cerebral cortex. The neurobiology of ADHD is complex and involves multiple brain pathways. The exact pathophysiology of ADHD is not clear, but several mechanisms have been proposed as factors associated with the condition. This includes abnormalities in the functioning of neurotransmitters, brain structures, and cognitive function. In short, structural changes are present in autism as well as ADHD, and while structural changes cannot be altered, we have many medications that impact neurotransmitters. I will not be discussing humanity's large gap in knowledge here. Many articles I read in the course of writing this indicate that while we know stimulant medication is effective in up to 80% of people with ADHD, as of May 2023, we are still saying things like, stimulants are believed to work by increasing dopamine levels in the brain. One article published in January of this year states in over 50 years of using stimulant medications to counteract the symptoms of ADHD and hundreds of studies, no negative effects of taking the medication over a period of years have been observed. In recent years, a number of imaging studies have been conducted to better understand how ADHD and the medication used to treat it affect the brain. In 2013, far in the future, 2013, they compared the brains of kids with ADHD before and after a year of treatment with stimulant medications. The study showed an increase in the density of dopamine transporters, those molecules that take dopamine out of action, in the brain after treatment. This suggests that the increase of dopamine stimulated by the medication may have prompted the brain to develop more dopamine transmitters to clear it away. How long that change might last is not clear, as the level of transporters in the brain fluctuates. So, hopefully my rattling off of scientifically backed information has put your mind at complete ease in regards to stimulant medication use for children with ADHD. Back to elementary school, Skylar. I'm awkward. I prefer the company of adults who are known quantity. I struggle to maintain friendships with peers, and the bullying starts. I am both a delight and a frustration to all adults in my life. I've embraced my role as a little professor in the company of my parents and their friends. I can talk about Egyptology for hours. At school, my need to be well-liked has had many pitfalls. The constant refrain from teachers is as follows. Skylar is so bright. She is so fun to be around, and she can make the whole room laugh, but she just doesn't apply herself. She has so much potential, but she wastes it. If only she would turn in her homework, which is literally just in her backpack, pay attention to the lessons, focus less on her peers and more on the teacher, etc., etc. Everyone has an opinion. Maybe it's a discipline problem at home. Maybe she's lazy. What if we just keep taking away things she enjoys so she can focus more on school? And this persists for the remainder of my public education. Delightfully, the consequences of this struggle stain all aspects of my childhood. As one article says, symptoms of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and autistic spectrum disorder often co-occur. The DSM-IV had previously specified that an ASD diagnosis is an exclusion criterion for ADHD, thereby limiting research of this common clinical co-occurrence. That's a lot of big words. Excuse me for just a moment. As neurodevelopmental disorders, both ASD and ADHD share some phenotypic similarities, but are characterized by distinct diagnostic criteria. Wow. In the last decade, studies have reported increased prevalence of both attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and autistic spectrum disorders. While ADHD is defined by impaired areas of functioning in attention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity, autism spectrum disorder is characterized by core social dysfunctions and restrictive, repetitive behaviors. Studies show that between 30 and 50% of individuals with ASD manifest ADHD symptoms, particularly at preschool age, the Tootsie Roll incident. And similarly, estimates suggest 2/3 of individuals with ADHD show features of ASD. Recent findings from the Autism Treatment Network database suggest that co-occurrence of ADHD and ASD is associated with a lower quality of life and poorer adaptive functioning than in any one of those conditions. Both disorders often include difficulty in attention, communication with peers, impulsivity, and various degrees of restlessness or hyperactivity. Both are more common in boys than girls and present, at least partially, at preschool age. Both disorders have a known genetic predisposition, with comorbidity within the same individuals and across family members. My father. He's not here, right? Okay, good. And both syndromes cause significant behavioral, academic, emotional, and adaptive problems in school, at home, and everywhere. Despite the growing body of research pointing at the frequent co-occurrence of these two disorders, the previous DSM-IV had not allowed for dual diagnosis, but the DSM-V, praise be, in its revised ADHD diagnostic criteria recognizes the frequency of this co-occurrence and allows for the first time a comorbid diagnosis of ADHD and autism spectrum disorder. I was diagnosed with autism right as I turned 20. Dr. Elizabeth Pennick, the head of KU Med Psych department at the time, was intrigued by my chart during rounds, which I love because even as a full-grown adult, I still enjoy entertaining and fascinating adults. I've spoken on this part of my life frequently here before. With all my masking and coping skills obliterated by illness and my emotional age reduced to that of a young child, Dr. Pienig was able to diagnose me with ASD. Although these days, she diagnosed me with Asperger's. And these days, I agree with the rest of most of the autistic community and just identify as autistic. And get out of here with all that high-low functioning jargon. Dr. Pienig spoke extensively with myself and then had interviews with my parents. My first question to my parents and Dr. Pienig, whose last name keeps autocorrecting to Panic, was, okay, so what meds do I take to feel normal? Spoiler alert, there are no medications for autism spectrum disorder, as it is a structural instead of chemical issue. Thus began an immense amount of grief, in which I struggled not only with the new limitations that were coming from my recently acquired brain injury, but also what was I going to do without the medications I've been taking since I was a preschooler. But it's been amazing, and I've had a new life after that diagnosis, and there's been a real peace that comes from knowing that you're not just atypical ADHD. You're not just the first person somebody's seen with ADHD and all these other issues. There's a reason. I will say that in my house, it causes some functional issues. There is a very strong need for routine in me, and I do not function off of a routine, and yet I cannot maintain a routine. As an adult, I have continually tried to come up with new coping strategies. My latest two, are I no longer attempt to manage my own medication. I take an extensive list at this point in my life, and just the act of sitting down every month, going to get my medications from the pharmacy, bringing them home, putting them in their little medication, organizers, was preventing me from taking my meds every day. So I thank God for pharmacies that do bubble packs. I now, once a month, get a giant card of med packs, 30 med packs for the morning, 30 med packs for noon, and 30 med packs from night. It has the date on it, very helpfully. It has my name, very helpfully. And now I have like 80 to 90% medication compliance, so that's a blessing. However, when I look at that sometimes, I have to get over the need to not take them, even though I know that they are very helpful for my life. There is that little part of me that says, oh, again, for the millionth time. Yes, Skylar, for the millionth time and for the rest of my life. One source stated regarding dual diagnosis of ADHD and ASD, they can have greater impairments in adaptive functioning, a term that refers to self-care and daily living skills. Also, I would not drink water at all without this lovely water bottle. I have struggled for years with dehydration and the effects of dehydration on my brain and on my body. Some of you may know that one of the symptoms of rabies is hydrophobia, which we won't go into rabies, Jake. But the literal inability of somebody with rabies who will sit there, for animals and people, who will sit there and look at water and try to give themselves water, and they physically cannot. That has been true for most of my life. But now, with this fancy water bottle, it not only lights up in rainbow colors when I do take a drink and then set it down. It keeps track. I've got all these fancy stickers, including one that says, "Bitch, you're doing a job," which is extremely pleasing when I'm at work. And I've managed to drink at the very least 30 ounces of water a day. God bless. So daily living skills and more severe social and cognitive issues. Not to put Jake on the spot again, but the amount of times we both had to stop and step back from a situation to see if we're accurately reading each other is wild. I make huge assumptions because I've had to. I have to make assumptions when I'm in social situations that the other person is inherently has negative feeling towards me. And maybe not me, but whatever I'm saying. Because historically, very accurate. So I often have to have that secondary conversation with Jake of, when you said okay, in response to me saying I was running to the store real quick at 10 p.m. last night, were you angry with me? Or am I completely misreading you and you're actually just tired and don't have any explicit feelings one way or the other? It's always the second one. And I always think it's the first one. To my great shock and surprise, I am terrible at accurately reading emotions. In my brain, even simple activities like getting dressed take a large amount of brain power and space. I have to consider the weather, my mood, what clothes did I manage to get clean and put away, my activity level for the day, and whether that pair of pants that is usually okay will actually cause a meltdown tonight, because every fifth step I take causes one pant leg to ride up a little higher, but I like how they look. So by the time I'm dressed, I'm actually exhausted. It's been difficult for myself and for everyone in my family. The autism spectrum disorder diagnosis answers, sure, a lot of questions, but it does not solve anything. It opens up the possibility of accommodations, but those accommodations can come with great shame. There's still a belief within the larger community that ADHD and autism are both disorders of childhood. But I stand before you, a full-grown adult, most of the time. And both of those things still have huge impacts on my life. To wrap up, today is Jake and I's 7th wedding anniversary. We were married on this very stage. And just as I wrote my vows the night before, waking up my person of honor, M, innumerable times to read a clever line and get their reaction, I wrote this over the last 2 hours. The only type of motivation my brain understands is life or death. Happy anniversary, Jake. Thank you for being the ground control to my major tome.
Thank you so much, Sky, for sharing all of that with us. Definitely adding someone to our stage, as it were, so thank you very much. Paul Isaacs, an autism training consultant, speaker, and author, and an adult who was diagnosed with autism in 2010, may have said the best thing. The tragedy isn't autism. The tragedy is the lack of understanding of autism, the lack of resources, interventions not being met with the person in mind, and assumptions being made about the person. Toward that end, our next speaker is going to help us understand the behaviors associated with autism spectrum differences and also give us some guidance on how to interact with individuals who live with ASD. And with that, I welcome via Zoom Mike Sumler. Mike is a licensed marital and family therapist and has been working with children, adolescents, and teens with neurological disorders for over
Nobody tells me when I'm doing something wrong, so I can't trust them. They might be over texting, sending 9 or 10 messages, and then all of a sudden, they're giving information back that is, they're breaking down. Then all of a sudden, they don't have, they get ways to interact with them. And I don't know what happened. No one said, hey, you're texting me too much, or that last thing that you said was irritating. So I say, especially in closer contact, take a question over, tell them how you responded to it. A lot of times they don't necessarily take it in a personal sort of way like you got mad, but they take it as information feedback. And so I think that is an important step. The big thing is being kind. One of the things that I want to be a quick story about one of my clients who previously grocery store, and buying breakfast with 2 or 3 times a week. They would always see this one checkout lady that wore a sweater. She never had a trash with her. She didn't know that she was wearing a sweater. And about, I don't know, 6, 7 months in that he had been going to this grocery store, and her client noticed that she didn't have her sweater on anymore. So he said to her, you don't have your sweater on. Well, she didn't know him at all. So her response to him is kind of like if her crazy. Because she obviously knew she had it that day, and didn't know. And of course, he had autism, so during this really interesting interaction, it sort of left both of them feeling badly about it. And so, and a lot of times, adults, especially adults over 30, have a lot of times spend a lot of time studying people. They might kind of know what they're supposed to do, and I miss, how to do that. And it might kind of come across very stilted. So, for the next one of the things that I want to make sure everybody realizes is that all humans need to have that sense of belonging. I will hear a lot of times people with autism, especially if they're introverts, will just say people who usually are like being around them, I don't want to be around them. I can still see that need to feel like they belong. And so I would love to see you guys really trying to get people involved, really trying to make that connection, make sure they know you notice them, that they're there. I have some collaborations that I do on a consistent basis throughout the school year, and I'll do them for about 2 hours. And some of my clients, potential clients, because I do that before they know who I am, won't have talked to anyone the entire time they're at school. This is the whole time during the conversation. Not one sentence when everyone else is. And so sometimes that sense of belonging, that human connection is really important. So, we'll take a look at next slide. In the interest of time, I'll save you the first one. I had one of my classmates and grief about it, grief, and it was very apparent. And I didn't want him to be walking around and not realize that was the case. And so I had to approach it very softly. So I said to him, I said, what would you do if I had a boyfriend? And he said, well, I tell you. I said, why would you do that? He said, because I don't want to look at it. And number two, I wouldn't want you to be embarrassed. So I used that time which went off on my work, and I'm not telling this as a criticism, but as a helpful feedback for you to recognize, because it's one of the first things that I recognize about you when you walk in. Just to kind of gently bring that to him with that. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there because I really want to get into our activity. I want to have you guys do. So I will, what I'd like you guys to do is the person next to you, someone close to you, to remind you to show up your phone, you have to look around.
We're gonna do it very quickly, so just whoever's closest to you, just try to have a conversation without using the letter N. So there's many words that you can't use. All right, Saved by the Bell. I'm going to call everybody back together. Thank you for participating in the activity. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and Vicky's going to run around like a little mouse with a microphone trying to get that in front of you before you answer, because that is the way that Mike Sumler can hear you. Otherwise, if you just naturally have a voice that carries, like I happen to be blessed with, you can just yell it out and the microphone might pick it up. So how did you feel while you were trying to have that conversation without ends? Frustrated.
Rob Cook here. I felt awkward.
Awkward. Very, very sucking of your cognitive energy, yes.
Struggling.
Struggling?
I couldn't say exactly what I meant to say. I wanted to say Enneagram number 9. And it was impossible to say that or even get around it.
So almost impossible to express a thought you have, couldn't find a way. Yeah.
Just so that he can hear. I was trying to say Enneagram number 9, and they all have N's in them. And so that's a very specific thing I wanted to say and communicate, and I could communicate it 0% because I couldn't say any of the things. I just had to use my fingers. Be like, number 9.
What about, did anybody notice body language at all?
Oh, well, when you're concentrating that hard, your eye contact goes down, way down. And I noticed that within my group, and this is just how I am typically, you kind of, the more you get concerned about what you're saying, the more you start to hunch in. And because you really get in your own head, and so your body just naturally.
Excellent. Anybody else? Oh. Kimmy's over there. Thank you, Vicki.
The problem I ran into is like a lot of the exclamations that are not eat it. Okay. A lot of the exclamations that are like not cursing that I want to say are like dang it or darn it, and so I would say that and then like get mad and then realize that I said another N and get mad. So I was like, I'm really not trying to be obscene in this church, but I might have to.
Now, of course, we're all thinking of all the cuss words that don't have N's in it.
Right, exactly. You didn't have to think about your curse words now.
I dare you not to think of them. Oh, those are boring ones. Okay, here comes Anne. Words. The conversation was very stilted.
Okay, I think Mike has some explanation for us, so we'll throw it back to Mike.
So, the reason why, and really what you guys said is exactly what I hear all across income during this presentation, which is activity. And the reason why I wanted you to go through this is because I want you to get that sense of the things that you want to say are not allowed, or you're not sure how they're going to be received. And so you're second guessing yourself constantly. And when you're second guessing yourself, you can't think about the other person. You can't think about having good body language. You can't think about, how you're coming across to them and that sort of thing.
I would say the version of autism that this tends to really hit is going to be those kind of level 1 higher functioning Asperger's type, because they're aware of how they're coming across, but aware that they're aware of their differences, aware that they not necessarily be there. So this is not perfect, but I wanted to make sure that you guys got a sense of what that might feel like and get a little bit of empathy for your fellow congregation members that have this, and anyone that you run into. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, and I appreciate you guys. And let me know if you have any other questions. Nope. Oh. Well, we're just now working on it, so I'll have to let you know later. What we're going to try to do is we're going to try to push in a different interest and try to use that interest more when he is there in that setting, but we have to find something that has the same ingredients. So it has to be very specific and has parts of objects and have that engineering sense, because that's really what he likes about the weaponry. Oh, we'll have to do it later. Do it later. You don't get off that easy. Yeah.
Those we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And please join us for coffee and conversation in the lobby. Thank you very much.